people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. We now know who Canada's own unbeaten up-and-comer Bree Howling is going to be facing this weekend on the undercard of an MVP Prospects show. She's going to be facing Mexico's own Naomi Cardenas. An unbeaten up-and-comer like Bree Howling is an unbeaten up-and-comer. Very similar record to Bree Howling. Bree's 8-0, and so is Naomi. Bree is 27, whereas Naomi is 25. Both fighters are orthodox fighters. Tail of the tape, they're about even. Bree is 5'4", whereas Naomi is about 5'2", 2 inches shorter. On paper, they have identical records. Same number of fights, same number of knockouts. 2 recorded knockouts in Bree Howling's CV, and it's the same for Naomi, but having seen both in action, there are differences, noticeable ones. Bree is more the boxer. Naomi is more the brawler. We've seen from Bree so far, fight by fight, is polished boxing with a mean streak. There's a lot of aggression there. Bree Howling punches with a lot of spite. But this weekend, she'll have to put her boxing on display lest she wants to get sucked into a war. It's what Naomi's going to be looking for. Naomi Cardenas, who saw action 2 times last year, and she's already seen action once this one back in March against Yulisa Almontes, who she beat by way of a unanimous decision in what was an 8-rounder. Bree Howling, more active in the previous year than Naomi. She saw action 3 times last year. This will be her very first fight of this one, and I think that she's going to have her hands full with Naomi. I think that for Bree, this is a step up in competition, and it's a step up for Naomi. It is a step up for both. But Bree we're familiar with. Bree, we've seen in action many times before. Bree, we already know. Now, what you need to know about Naomi is she's a come-forward slugger, an aggressive one that sacrifices form for ferocity, to get punches out and get punches off. Kind of fighter to take chances, kind of fighter that's going to try to crowd your space, invade it. Doesn't have as many bells and whistles as a Bree Howling. There's nothing subtle about Naomi Cardenas, but what makes her dangerous is she's willing to take chances. So you have a fighter in front of you that's going to try to walk you down, stalk you, stay in front of you. We know that this fight is a late addition to the show, so that essentially means Bree Howling has not had a camp for Naomi, and Naomi has not had a camp for Bree. But the reason that Bree needs to be extra sharp, perhaps a bit more than Naomi, is because Naomi's gonna fight that fight irrespective of who she's fighting. She's gonna fight the same way. Kind of fighter that doesn't change much from one fight to the next. Whereas Bree needs to focus on balance here. A balanced approach, because too much offense and you'll get drawn into a war. Too much defense and you may get outworked. You need a balance of the two for a fight like this. To the eye, Bree is more athletic and more mobile, more agile than a Naomi Cardenas. Gotta use that. Balance it out with counters. Countering effectively while staying on the move. Don't make yourself a stationary target, and don't sell out whenever Naomi wants to trade, wants to exchange. If you have faster feet than this fighter, you've got to use them. To the eye, Bree's got better defense. Slipping, rolling, and riding punches. She's got to use that too. As stated, winning this fight is all about balance. A balance of offense and defense. With a Noemi Bosques, you can get aggressive. You can take chances. But with a fighter like this, it really is all about balance. Balancing your offense with your defense. Not too much of either. I have my reservations about forecasting the outcomes of fights in between unbeaten up-and-comers so early in their careers, because the answers are not that obvious. These are fighters that we are still getting to know, and these are fighters that are still developing, so neither one of them is all that bankable. Anything can happen, but Bree's got more bells and whistles than Naomi Cardenas. There is a bit more to her game than what you see from Naomi, and Brie has to put it all on display this weekend because this is a step-up fight. This is not a bring-along fight, and this is not a developmental fight. This is a fight. A step-up. Preliminary thoughts at first glance. Brie Howling could have her hands full with Naomi. She has to out-hustle her and out-maneuver her. Don't let Naomi turn this into a gunfight. In men's super featherweight news, the California Commission has converted the Navarette win over Charlie Suarez to a no contest, and the WBO has ordered a rematch. The California State Commission voted unanimously on Monday to change WBO super featherweight champion Emmanuel Navarette's May 10th unanimous decision victory over Charlie Suarez to a no contest, with the WBO immediately ordering a rematch, reviewing a series of replays that showed a Suarez punch landing exactly where a cut opened widely over Navarette's left eyebrow in the ESPN televised main event bout at the San Diego Pechanga Arena. The commissioners ruled the only fair thing to do was to convert the outcome to a no contest. If the proper replay had been available to officials in the minutes after a ringside doctor stopped the fight over the severity of Navarette's cut, Suarez would have been declared the winner because Navarette was unable to continue because of the cut caused by what was a legal punch. Everybody saw it, and that's what everybody knows happened. Instead, referee Edward Calantes, shielded from the incident, had previously ruled the 6th round cut was caused by an accidental headbutt, sending the bout to the scorecards, which supported Mexico's 3-division champion Navarette 77-76, 78-75, and 77-76. Suarez punched Navarette directly where he got cut, but I'm always against changing a loss to a win, Commissioner Dr. Maria DeMars said at Monday's meeting. It was bang bang and hard to see. Before a definitive replay surfaced approximately 30 minutes after the bout was stopped, said another commissioner. Top-ranked Vice President of Boxing Operations Carl Moretti said in the meeting that his company will honor the WBO's request for a rematch and will do it in a timely manner. Navarette, 39-2, with 1 draw, 30 knockouts, is currently on medical suspension from the California Commission until July 9th. Ricardo Navalta, and attorney for Philippines Suarez, now 18-0, said he understood the commission's ruling but wanted to emphasize the toll of the event on his fighter. These guys spend their whole lives for a night like this. To feel that you didn't get a fair shake, that's pretty tough. This kid has already been deprived of his moment, Navalta said.
One at a time, please. So, Charlie, was there confusion when the fight happened? Were you told the fight would stop because of a cut? Were you told the fight would stop with a punch? What were you told, even during or at the end of the fight?
Nalito ka ba kasi sinabi niya kung may confusion daw kung stoppage daw dahil sa cut?
Yeah, nalito.
Yeah, I was confused.
I was confused a little bit because I think that it's not a headbutt, but if you can see the replay, only when I turn right southpaw, I throw one shot in his eyes. So that's why I don't know what happened.
Did you feel any contact head to head at all?
No.
No.
When the replay, if you saw the replay, only the wild hook.
Clear punch.
Yeah, it was a clear punch, but I hit him.
Did you know immediately that you had cut him with a punch as the fight was happening?
Nalaman mo daw na tamaan dahil sa supuan.
Yes, I saw it, and that is a part of the referee. He can handle the situation. So
Do you want a rematch?
I want rematch to Emmanuel Navarette because it was a good fight,
Now, even with this recent turn of events, you could argue that Charlie Suarez was in fact robbed of the victory, because if it had been ruled the right way, a cut opened off a legal punch rendering Emmanuel unable to continue, Charlie would have won the fight, and Charlie would have become WBO champion that night.
Would have been ruled a TKO.
But this is the most that Charlie can hope to get in terms of justice, and being honest, it's more than a lot of fighters have gotten in previous situations.
Now, Carl Moretti has provided some assurances that a second fight will happen between them, but I don't know, because the only thing holding Emmanuel to this situation is how much or how little he wants to keep that WBO title. He's not contractually bound to give Charlie a rematch.
The WBO are the ones holding his feet to the fire, rightfully so, but if he were to, theoretically, drop that WBO title, he can skate.
And he might.
Go back up to the lightweight division, maybe take on Raymond Muratalla for what could soon be the vacant IBF title. I remember that fight, and I remember that Emmanuel looked soft in the body, fat and flabby.
I don't imagine that making 130 pounds at this stage and at this age is all that easy for Emmanuel. Going up to lightweight might be a breath of fresh air.
But of course, the boys are bigger at lightweight, punch harder, and take a better punch. We saw what Emmanuel looked like when he fought Denis Berenchik. Not as effective as he is at the lower weights, but he still has that option that the only thing holding Emmanuel to this situation is the WBO title, and if he drops it,
he's in the clear.
So who's to say that he won't? On this side of the border, Top Rank promotes him, but on the other side, it's Fernando Beltran, it's Zenfer, and under the counsel of Zenfer, he might elect to do that, just to wash his hands of this situation. So we'll see. We'll see if Carl can make good on that promise that there will be a second fight, or we'll see if Emmanuel skates. But one way or another, Charlie should have won, and that's the bottom line.
In men's heavyweight news, former champion Joseph Parker wants a spot on the Usyk vs. Dubois 2 card July 19th at Wembley against an old foe.
Joseph Parker has put forward the idea of fighting Derek Chisora in a trilogy matchup on the undercard of Alexander Usyk and Daniel Dubois' undisputed heavyweight world title clash on July 19th at Wembley. The New Zealander Parker hasn't fought since a second-round knockout of Martin Bakole back in February when he was originally supposed to fight Dubois for the Brits IBF title. Dubois fell ill on fight week and pulled out of the contest, however, extending Parker's streak of fighting without a world title on the line to 14. Parker holds the WBO interim title and is the mandatory challenger for the winner of Usyk versus Dubois, so his long-awaited shot is just around the corner. But in the meantime, though, the Kiwi Warrior wants to remain active and has earmarked a spot on the July 19th Wembley bill as the perfect opportunity to do so. Pressed on an opponent choice, Parker circled back to an old foe he has shared the ring with twice already and has 2 victories over. He's talking about Derek Chisora, and doing a trilogy with Derek would be pretty pointless, even as a stay-busy fight.
It would be just about as pointless as when Tyson Fury did it. You will remember, going into their third fight, Fury was already 2-0 against Derek, so doing a third fight...
pretty pointless.
I'd like to be out as soon as possible, he told The Ring. I know Usyk and Dubois are fighting on July 19th. I'd like to either fight not long after that, or it'd be great if I could fight on the same card. That's been floated by Queensbury, so it'd be nice. Who do I fight? I'm not sure. The belts are held up at the moment. Usyk and Dubois have the belts, and whoever wins, who knows what kind of rematch clauses are in that contract. It'd be nice to fight anyone. It'd be nice to fight someone like Derek Chisora.
Derek Chisora is looking for his 50th fight, and I'm not sure if he's gonna fight for a title. I know I've beaten him twice, but I've never had a trilogy in my career. So Derek always brings it, and it could be a good sort of fight to keep me busy. Parker also mentioned a potential clash with Dillian Whyte, who had the beating of him when they fought back in July of 2018. Whyte won their O2 Arena bout by unanimous decision, but the fight was an entertaining one and saw both men hit the canvas.
Being as close as Joseph is, to world title honors, the chance to become a two-time heavyweight champion, to fight for undisputed essentially, I don't expect him to throw caution to the wind and fight just anybody. He wants to stay active.
Obviously, he doesn't want to have to be shaking off ring rust when the big moment comes. So he wants to stay active, but against somebody safe, in a situation that he can manage. That's why he's bringing up Derek, because he's already got 2 wins over that guy, one of them controversial.
But if today's Joseph Parker fought today's Derek Chisora, my money's on Joseph, and there won't be anything controversial about it. Whoever Parker fights next, he's insistent that the obvious end goal is to fight the winner of Usyk versus Dubois too, whether that be at the end of this year or at the beginning of the next one.
There's also Dillian Whyte, he added. Fabio Wortley is fighting Justice Huni this weekend, or very soon. There's many options out there. I know Martin Bacoli wants a rematch too, but I think it would be awesome to fight on the undercard of Usyk and Dubois. I'll fight anyone, like I said. If there's no one else to fight, Derek Chisora is always keen. He's always up for it, but he's also got a great following, and he's looking for his 50th fight. And then I'll try and get the winner of Usyk and Dubois. In terms of timing, I'm not sure whether it's going to be 2025 or 2026. It just depends on whatever happens with the belts, whether they unify and they have another fight, or whether the belts get broken up and spread around. It depends on how that goes.
Say Daniel does the unthinkable, and he beats Usyk in the rematch. That opens the door for a trilogy between them. How many of the 4 major titles would be all wrapped up in that situation?
Back over to Joseph, who's in the market for a stay busy fight. He mentioned Dillian Whyte, and I like the sound of that rematch a lot more than a Derek Chisora trilogy. Dillian is supposed to be fighting this weekend on the undercard of Wortley versus Huni.
It's too quick a turnaround. He would not be able to make a July 19th date, I don't think. Not on that kind of time.
But you could still do a rematch with Joseph at a later date. Doesn't have to be on that card, doesn't have to be on that date. Maybe you do it for September or November, in the fall and winter months. They can do it, but I don't think they can do it in July. It's more of a precedent for a rematch with Dillian anyway. Dillian holds a win over Joseph. Joseph wants his lick back. It makes a lot of sense. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's not a bad shout.
And if today's Joseph Parker met today's Dillian Whyte, once again, I'm going with Joe. Joe's younger than these guys. I think that gets lost on a lot of people, that it seems like he's been around about as long as they have, but the whole time, he's many years younger than they are.
Now, he's got some miles on the odometer, the same as Dillian Whyte, but Joseph is entering into the second phase of his career, the Renaissance, whereas Dillian seems to be in the twilight of it. I don't know how many more wars he can afford to be in, but if they fought again, I'd go with Joseph. The first time I went with Dillian, this time I'd go the other way.
Joe wins a fight.
So Joseph is in the market for a stay busy fight. Entering into the second phase of his career, he's realized the value of activity, because when he lost to Joe Joyce, he didn't take a year off after that. He was back in a few months, and he kept fighting on a regular basis, which led him to be sharper.
More switched on. He had momentum.
And he wants to build on that momentum, so he's in a hurry to get back out. But who's available and who makes sense? Because I don't think Derek Chisora does. Dillian does, but he's not available.
Any recommendations?
I would say Agit Kabayel. I think that's a great fight for the fans, but not a great fight for Joseph under these circumstances. Rolling the dice with a guy like that when you're so close to your end goal.
It's a good shout, but perhaps for Joseph, not a good idea.
It's got to be a situation that he knows he can handle. It's got to be a manageable situation, because this is just a stay busy fight after all.